So welcome everybody. We're really happy to have you here. These sessions are recorded and then we have them on YouTube and the library's website. They take on a whole other life there. But part of what makes these sessions great is all of your questions. We love to have your questions. The format is that our presenter, in this case, Mike, he will do his presentation for probably around 40 minutes to an hour, and then we collect all of your questions down below in the Q&A section. And the only images that are captured are the presentation and the panel here. You guys are all sort of in the audience, anonymous. So that's why we would love to see you chime in the chat. The chat's a great place to ask little clarifying questions like what variety is he talking about again? Or if you have an experience that is relevant that you'd like to share, a tip for where to get something. Those are sort of things that are really useful. Heidi and Richard are going to keep an eye on that webinar chat and make sure we're giving you Master Gardener answers. Ginger and I will put in library related resources, and Mike will be talking. Mike, it's a room of about 20 people right now, so don't be scared. Mike is one of those odd people who's better in person than on this thing talking to his computer. Ginger and I both are better at talking to our computer. Um, so we're really happy to have you here. And if you do get cut off, we will send out the video if you wanted to share it with friends after. I know it's such nice weather, it's hard to be inside right now. And we do have more sessions coming up. We have seaside gardening and water smart gardening and some other sessions. So we'll send a follow-up email encouraging you to register for those as well. And you can see our whole back catalog of great sessions from the last few years on YouTube. And yes, I'd like to thank Richard Bernier for the person with the giant tropical behind him. That's a real plant, for wrangling all of the adults and making sure everybody's invited to the Zoom webinar and things like that. He has a job with quite a few regular duties. So Richard's been doing this for quite a few years. We're really grateful to him for coordinating all of us and for bringing people like Mike and Heidi to share their knowledge with you. Okay, so have I missed anything? I don't think so. I'm going to introduce Mike, and then Mike is going to take it away, and you guys can put your comments in the chat, your questions in Q&A. Great. Okay, I have to read off another screen, so sorry for not looking at you. Mike O'Neill is a retired accountant with a tech background. After retiring, Mike and his partner Mary moved to Nanaimo on Vancouver Island, and Mary encouraged him to expand his gardening knowledge. He completed the classroom training and VIMGA, which is Vancouver Island Master Gardener Association, intern experience requirements to become a certified Master Gardener in 2017. He's held various positions with Vancouver Island Master Gardeners and now serves as president. Is this still accurate, Mike?
It is.
You're still presidential? Perfect.
Yeah.
He enjoys lifelong learning and sharing his experience and knowledge with others, which is true of all of our Master Gardeners. We're very grateful that they like doing that. Take it away, Mike.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here with you today and welcome everybody. So my name is Mike O'Neill. I'm a volunteer Master Gardener with the Vancouver Island Master Gardeners Association. Today's session is going to be on crop rotation for the home gardener, not farmers. So we present these sessions in partnership with the Vancouver Island Regional Library for Public Education. And as always, the information presented does not always tell the full story, so you're encouraged to research yourself for more in-depth information. And we'll proceed to the next information screen. So just a little bit of legal first. The seminar is the property of Vancouver Island Regional Library and Vancouver Island Master Gardeners Association, and it is intended for education purposes only. Any commercial use or in all or part of this seminar or its contents is prohibited without express written consent from Vancouver Island Master Gardeners and Vancouver Island Regional Library. The information in the seminar is science-based and is accurate to the best of VIMGA's knowledge. And use of this information in this seminar is at the sole discretion, responsibility, and liability of the user. So a little bit about Vancouver Island Master Gardeners Association. We are a chapter of the Master Gardeners Association of BC and a member of an international service organization of specially trained volunteer teachers dedicated to the stewardship of the environment. Master gardeners work in partnership with public sector agencies, garden clubs, nonprofit service organizations, and private enterprise to teach and promote science-based sustainable horticultural knowledge and methods. And some of these images and information are from internet sources, and they're labeled or cited. And we do thank very much persons and companies for their use in this nonprofit educational seminar. So a presentation overview. What I hope that you take away from this presentation today is mostly general information on plant families. We will go through the history, and it is interesting, but plant families are the key to understanding how and why. Home gardeners should not be overly concerned with strict rotation methods because there are plenty of things that we can and do in our gardens to emulate rotation, such as integrated pest management, composting, organic fertilizers, and soil protection, such as mulching. As home gardeners, we already hopefully are doing these things, and healthy plants can survive all but the worst of pest infections. So there are only a few plant families we need to be paying attention to in our home gardens for rotation. So today we'll go through and define what is crop rotation, the history of crop rotation briefly, our all-important plant families and multiple families, and then finally crop rotation for home gardeners in the real world. And that's us, me, you, and I hope you will enjoy it. So first of all, what is crop rotation? Well, crop rotation is simply speaking the planned movement of crops between beds over time. Different plant families are planted in different locations each season. And it is not companion planting, but companion planting can be incorporated into crop rotation and often is. Crop rotation is one of the oldest and most effective agricultural practices, and it works in our home gardens very well. So why does it work? Well, it works because the soil nutrition is improved. It helps prevent pests and diseases, and it improves the soil structure and fertility for healthier plants and a better harvest. So crop rotation influences 5 major systems. These are biological, such as nitrogen fixation, microbial diversity, and mycorrhizal activity. Also chemical, in nutrient cycling, allopathy, and carbon cycling. The physical, soil structure, water movement, and root zone development. And the ecological, pest suppression and disease suppression, and of course, biodiversity. All important is the environmental, reducing fertilizer and pesticide dependence, and increased resilience to drought and climate stresses. So commercial agricultural operations do consider all of these systems to maximize cost savings, soil health, productivity, and of course, profit. It's a lot to consider, but the real good news is that as home gardeners, we are usually optimizing for healthy plants, reasonable yields, enjoyment, and low effort. So some of these rotations will have relatively low importance in small home gardens. We will get more into the practical aspects later in the presentation. So this is a kind of a neat graphic. It describes the historical moments of crop rotation. And this graphic will be part of your handout, so you don't need to take pictures of it or screenshots. It'll be there. And So we'll learn a little bit about each of the significant period changes, and we'll just move on to the next section. So early on in the year 8000 BCE, before Common Era, to 500 BCE, early farmers in Mesopotamia, Egypt, China, and India noticed that their soils became exhausted after continuous planting. They tried different solutions, such as leaving fields fallow, alternating cereals with grains, and using flood deposits or animal manure to restore fertility. They also started recording these observations. So from 510 BCE to 476 CE in the Common Era, we have classical Roman agriculture. Roman writers described methods resembling crop rotation. So legumes were especially valued because they improved soil fertility. And although biological reasons were not yet understood by early farmers, legumes partnered with soil bacteria to fix nitrogen. After harvest, this nitrogen is released, and it became available to support the growth of subsequent grain crops. So they didn't really know why it was improving, but it was, so they just kept doing it. So medieval Europe saw the real changes coming through, and then we had the three field system in the Middle Ages. So the fields were divided into three sections. One section would have winter grains, wheat or rye, then spring crops, oats, barley, peas, and beans, and then fallow land. So the fields were cycled annually, and it greatly increased food production. And at that time, it really helped reduce starvation risk, which was real. And also, European population growth was huge, and it really helped with population growth. A very interesting result of all this was after they had invented the padded horse collar, increased yield provided more feed that made it possible for horses to replace oxen for more efficient farming. Then came the agricultural revolution from 1600 to the 1800s. So the major advance in regards to this era was the Norfolk four-course rotation. What it was one year was wheat, then turnips, then barley, and then clover or grass. Turnips and clover fed livestock, and clover fixed nitrogen. So more livestock, more manure, etc. The plant and soil science is really this. Nitrogen cycles soil microbiology, root zone nutrient use, and disease and pest cycles. Nitrogen fixing in root nodules, research explained why rotations of peas, beans, clover, and alfalfa improved subsequent crops. And some home gardeners continued to adopt this rotation actually by doing year one roots, carrots, beets, radishes, and turnips. Year two, light feeders and grains, lettuce, herbs, onions, and garlic, using oats as a cover crop. Year three, legumes and peas and beans and clover for a cover crop. And year four, we have our heavy feeders, such as tomatoes, squash, corn, and our brassicas. So go science go. They began to understand plant and soil science. So after that, around the mid 1800s to the 1900s, we started having refined rotations improve in the beginning. But we had exponential growth in profit plus science. So of course, we started out with mechanization, synthetic fertilizers, and pesticides. And these techniques temporarily increase production and reduce the reliance on traditional crop rotations. However, monoculture very often led to soil degradation, erosion, pest resistance, and reduced biodiversity. And so we start to get back to nature and consider natural growth and production management, combining new science, research, and natural methods for sustainability and longer-term outcomes. Basically, we compromise with results and we're back to the future, so to speak. Today, we continue to develop better practices based on science, recognizing that the environmental penalties and rewards come from nature. We are more invested in researching problems and using that science with nature to deploy more resilient solutions. We know through science and experimentation over time that monoculture depletes soil nutrients, causes pest and disease buildup, and poor health generally. We can use crop rotation and diversification to reduce pest and disease and build up organic matter and conserve water and energy. It also will provide stronger yields year over year. It is interesting and somewhat predictable, in hindsight, how the old becomes the new, and now we consider natural methods for much better outcomes. There is no doubt we still do questionable things today in pursuit of profit and expediency, but we are going away from this short-term thinking and will continue to do so, hopefully. In reference to our home gardens, we can readily apply and achieve results by utilizing some crop rotation practices along with our usual gardening routines. And this is a rather busy picture. I've pointed out where my relevancy comes in with a big smile and a red arrow there. This will be a handout, so you'll have a copy of this rather busy picture. Kind of describing all the things we've come to. So crop rotation is very relevant to home gardeners. It improves gardening outcomes. It helps maintain soil fertility and it interrupts pests and diseases. It improves soil structure. It supports beneficials and helps reduce soil erosion. So let's have a quick look at a 6-bed raised garden here, a picture drawn by AI. I know not everybody likes it, but it does come in handy sometimes. So this is a very perfect looking and fake looking 6-bed raised home garden. And we'll have a look at each bed, starting with the number 1 bed, which is in the top left. Our legumes are in bed 1, and those are peas and beans, and great for fixing nitrogen. And this is often planted and used ahead of heavy feeders, such as tomatoes, corn, and our brassicas. In bed 2, in the middle, top middle, we have leafy greens planted. This is a mixed family, so not a true family, but a mixture. Relatively fast growing and easy to manage. These are staple vegetables in many households. So moderate to light feeders, and they are prone to some soil-borne issues and pest concentrations. In bed 3 in the upper right are root crops, another mixed family. Some common pests of root crops include wireworms, carrot rustfly, and nematodes. Several common root diseases such as root rot, scab, and fusarium. And these root crops in this bed are radishes, carrots, parsley or carrot tops, and possibly beets mixed into the bed. In bed 4, we have planted our nightshades, and the name is ominous because it is one of the most important plant families that we want to pay attention to for sure. In this case, we have tomatoes and some basil and marigolds for companion flowers. And tomatoes are the primary crop. They are the nightshades. And they are very heavy feeders, and they require much nutrients, including calcium as one of the most important to prevent blossom end rot. Some common pests in this bed will be aphids, hornworms, slugs, and snails. And some diseases, serious diseases, are blights, blossom end rot, mildew, and fusarium, which are soil-borne. In bed 5, we have our alliums, our natural pest deterrents. Um, the alliums we have here are leeks and green onions or scallions. And alliums have some pests such as thrips, leaf miners, and nematodes. But common diseases of alliums are mildew, white rot, and neck rot. And finally, in this display, we have bed 6. We have our brassicas, the second most important plant family that we'll get to know. And this includes cabbage, green and red, kale, and broccoli or broccolini, and some possible collards. So this family generally has cool season growth habits. Brassicas are rotated to reduce clubroot, cabbage worms, flea beetles, and soil diseases. The key here that I'm trying to demonstrate is how important our plant families are. We're going to have a look at each of our relevant plant families to understand more about them and their role in crop rotation. So this next slide, it'll be a handout with all the descriptions of the plant families in it, so there's no need to take very detailed notes. And we'll start off with this common plant families for crop rotation. Now, it might surprise many of you that there are over 416 plant families. Sorry, but we are not going to be reviewing all 416. And I think I detect, even through the interwebs, a notable sigh of relief in that regard. So here I have prepared a list as it relates to most home gardens. So there could be some extra families you might be concerned with, but this is generally the families that we are all concerned with in our home families. And remember, we're only really concerned about 2 or 3 of our crop families for management. There's plenty of reputable resources online, and I give you full reference to those at the end of the session, and that will be a handout too. So lots of information on this. In fact, so much it's sometimes very difficult to sift through separate the wheat from the chaff, if I could use that. So being familiar with those main families and those characteristics will serve us well if we want to practice good crop rotation. A little picture down below of a similar crop rotation to what we just looked at. So our first family is the legume family. So those are beans and peas. Common crops in that family are beans, peas, lentils, and clover. So they're a key rotation family because these crops greatly improve soil nitrogen availability. Good follow-up crops to these are heavy feeders like tomatoes, corn, squash, and the all-important brassicas again. This family fixes nitrogen through their root nodules. They also improve soil fertility, increase microbial activity, and absolutely add a great amount of organic matter to your garden, which is all important, as I'm sure many of you are aware. The next important family, or it is one of the second most important family, really, is the Brassica family. So I've got a picture here of common Brassica groupings, but common crops would be cabbage, broccoli, kale, cauliflower, radishes, mustard greens, Brussels sprouts, and arugula, and many more, I might add. So brassicas are very heavy feeders. They have high demand for nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium, also calcium and sulfur. They're fast growing and they have plenty of biomass. They release into the soil ITCs, which are compounds coming from the plants that interfere with the life cycle of soil-borne pathogens, as well as stimulate beneficial microbes. They are also a natural weed suppressor. So not last, but one of the more important families is our nightshade family. And as the name kind of indicates how very important it is. So nightshades are very susceptible to blights, Vercillium wilts, nematodes, and they usually follow legumes or well rested in composted beds, which is where home gardeners differ from commercial gardening. So common crops in this family are tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, and eggplants, in addition to many others, of course. There are some unusual veggies in this family. Gooseberries are one, tomatillas, and I hope you're not growing this, but tobacco is one as well. So common pests in this family are whiteflies, hornworms, aphids, and beetles. And they are a critical crop for rotation. And we should always try to avoid repeating this crop in the same bed for 3 to 4 years, 2 at a minimum, as they can leave persistent disease in your soil. And you might have heard this saying, never plant tomatoes after potatoes. So that's a good way to remember how important this plant family is to us. So a favorite family of most of us are cucurbit family. And basically this family is our common crops are squash, cucumbers, pumpkins, melons, zucchini, those kinds of crops. And they are a warm season vining plant and they have rapid summer growth. And common diseases to this family are mildew, bacterial wilt, mosaic viruses, anthracnose, and the pests are borers, aphids, spider mites, and beetles. You see a picture of our various squashes, winter and summer, pumpkin group, cucumber group, and our melon group. These are AI-generated images, FYI. Well, I'm kind of big into computers, so our last family, well, not our last, but our last two various families that we'll talk about are the root crop family. So these are crops that grow underground, and common crops to the root family include some brassicas, but brassicas are a specific botanical family, and root crops are a broad culinary category that we use describing any plants grown for edible underground roots or tubers. Some roots are members of the brassica family, and we can want to separate potatoes, nightshades, and onions, alliums from that family as well for improved disease management. Root crop diseases, such as root rot, scab, clubroot, fusarium, exist in plenty, and they are really good to plant after leafy crops or in composted beds, well-composted beds, which we are all doing, hopefully. Some common pests of the root crop family are wireworms, carrot rust fly, maggots, nematodes again, and much like the brassicas. They are very helpful in breaking up your soil, as you can well imagine. So they do reduce erosion and moisture loss in some systems, and they protect soil from heat stress as well. but they are very heavy feeders using nitrogen, potassium, and plenty of water. So you have kind of a combined family here, with our allium family. Alliums are great pest deterrents naturally. Some common crops in alliums are onions, garlic, leeks, shallots, and scallions. And they do deter pests such as aphids, carrot rust fly, some beetles and caterpillars, and primarily because of their aroma. So planting in the vicinity is very helpful as well, not in the same bed. So you want to plant them near carrots and lettuce, tomatoes, and brassicas, things that do attract these things. Some common pests on the allium family are thrips, maggots, and nematodes, and some of the diseases are rot, mildew, and blotch. So a moderate nutrient user, this family is, you still want to avoid planting them in the same soil annually. The suppression of soil pests and fungi are because it's a natural pest deterrent, and they're a very good transitional crop after heavy feeders. So our last category is just some other families. Our leafy greens group, which is lettuce, spinach, arugula, and these are greens. Leafy greens do allow succession planting, so they're kind of quick growing. They reduce erosion in the soil, and they do require constant moisture to grow, though. And then we have our grasses and cereals, and yes, corn is part of that family. We generally have corn, wheat, rye, oats, and barley. And most grasses and cereals are useful recovery and cover crops, some exceptions, as you can see. They're very heavy nitrogen feeders and provide good biomass. And they're sometimes combined with legumes because they will act as trellises. And you might think of the Three Sisters method, where plants are climbing up corn stalks and things like that. So the grasses and cereals, they combined with legumes, they coax the legumes to fix nitrogen in the soil. You don't make it fix nitrogen, but legumes are a little bit lazy in that if there is sufficient nitrogen, they will not produce like we want them to. So I think you're happy we're finished with all those families and we're not going to do the other 408. So when we talk about crop rotation for home gardeners, there's plenty of alternatives that home gardeners use that imitate or resolve crop rotation considerations. And we have good science behind why we want to keep some plant families separate and rotate them from year to year. So we can do things to help minor families by doing compost, organic fertilization each year, which we normally all do, I think, and that helps to rejuvenate the soil. And we can manage our pests traditionally. We can really concentrate on only the important problems that might be affecting your garden, such as pest and disease buildup in the soil over time for those very important families. So another thing you can look at in regards to in time with crop rotation is companion planting, but it's another distinct planning strategy and another topic. So it is complementary, but it has a world of its own. So what I'd like to do now is say that we need a realistic approach for home gardeners. Remember, we want to have fun here. We don't want a job running our garden. So detailed rotation is fairly complex, and it's not completely necessary for home gardens. In fact, if you do look at some of the videos and information, you'll see some people who don't advocate crop rotation at all, but the science simply doesn't support them. They just get lucky sometimes. So we want to just concentrate on just those important problems as set and disease buildup is absolutely one of them. And pest location on a regular crop feeding, but they all have legs and wings, so they can move around too. So let's review a detailed sample crop rotation. And I have used AI to help with setting up the pattern. And AI is very good for that. But you have to review it because it can be wrong and make mistakes. Sometimes I think it throws them in there on purpose. You have to make sure it's accurate, and that's where your knowledge of plant families comes in. There's also a few commercial apps available uh, to you, and they usually have a cost. It's interesting to note that one of our master gardeners, Felix, has actually developed a crop rotation app. It's in its infancy now, but we might one day see it up on our website. I've sampled it, and it's quite neat. It has to be vetted though, and peer sampled. So let's review our 6-bed rotation and experience a good sample of a crop rotation strategy using 6 beds. But before we do that, we want to remember that we have a very knowledgeable island-based gardener, Dr. Linda Gilkison, and Dorothy reminded me that Dr. Gilkison, who's an entomologist, advises us to be practical about crop rotation strategies and take a realistic and practical approach to doing it. You'll love her site if you haven't been to it. It'll be in the references as well. It's filled with helpful and practical gardening information. There's plenty of online stuff too that some of it makes no scientific sense, and much, much more that does though. So have a discerning look on the internet and see YouTube videos and things that are very interesting to watch for sure. Some short videos too. We just want to pay attention to rotating in our garden beds for some same family crops. Mostly, we want to help deal with disease buildup and hosting of specific pests. Soil nutrition and health can be managed by applying compost, organic fertilizers, and mulching. So the message is alliums, nightshades, and brassicas deserve our attention, arguably, but they are certainly the important ones. So let's have a look at this sample garden plan with a crop rotation in mind. Oops, sorry. So here we have a 6-bed family rotation, and usually the order is I would pick what vegetables I want to grow, and I would then allocate them into their proper plant families. And in this case, I have picked, and I'm doing a little bit reverse and showing you our 6 years and beds 1 through 6. And I've underlined those key plant families that we want to learn about and pay attention to. It's actually 4, but 2 or 3 is nightshades, brassicas, and the alliums are probably 3 key ones. But nightshades and brassicas have high interest to us. The alliums and cucurbits are a little less of concern. So we see that in bed 1, 2 through 6, we're going to be putting year 1, our nightshades, our legumes, brassicas, root plants, alliums, and cucurbits. And then in year 2, we'll just see a rotation. Everything shifts left. Year 3 shifts left again. And if you sort of follow along, you can see that there's a pattern to all of this. And I got these plant families listed because I picked these plants to be my veggies. So for year 1, in bed 1, we have a composted, organically fertilized bed to start with, of course. And we need to keep this nightshade group from being replanted for at least 3 years. I like 4, but two is minimum, but 3 is good in the same bed. And this nightshade plant family of tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants that I'm going to plant is highly susceptible to fungal disease, blight, verticillium wilt, and nematodes. So they can leave persistent diseases in the soil. Thus, you want to pay attention to them. In bed two, I'm going to put my bush beans and my peas. And this family, legume family, is going to provide high levels of nitrogen fixing after harvest and increase my soil fertility and microbial activity. An added bonus of good organic matter after decomposition will occur. And these will be great before my brassicas next year, which are very heavy feeders. And of course, bed three, I'm going to be putting my brassicas. Broccoli, in this case, cabbage, kale, and radishes in succession. I'm going to plant them as I want them, half a row at a time, my wife likes to say. And in bed three, we'll have those veggies um, sensibly preceded by the legumes, of course. You can see the pattern there in the previous year. So it's always a good idea to precede these heavy feeders with high level nutrient giving legumes. In bed four, we have a root bed of carrots, beets, parsnips, and turnips. And these crops will benefit our soil structure and improve our root channels. Bed five is going to see our alliums. We'll have onions, garlic, leeks, and green onions. And these are moderate nutrient users, and they suppress some pests and fungi. And they're shallow-rooted vegetables, and they do not like competition, are not so effective at soil improvement. And in bed six, almost some of our favorite veggies, cucumbers, zucchini, spinach, two crops of spring and fall of spinach, and lettuce, and another succession planting that we will continue to plant throughout the season. Some soil shade provided with this combination to keep my soil cool, since lettuce does prefer cooler soils, and also cover for my soil, and some weed suppression is in play here too. Going through this example over 1 year helps us visualize what will work. In years 2 through 6, our order makes sense for soil recovery and multi-year separation for planting the main families. We want a minimum of 2, 4 is better, years for the brassica and nightshade families if we can for sure. Now recognize everybody doesn't have 6 beds, so if you have 3, you've got your 2 you should pay attention to. And who doesn't anyway enjoy a bit of experimentation in the garden? After all, nobody really gets hurt. So home gardens are going to be very well mulched and composted and fertilized each year with natural fertilizer. And we know that to be true. So we can supplement enough to avoid some need for crop rotation in other families. We don't want to leave our soil beds exposed between seasons. We know that. It bears repeating, though, that main families for your attention are the brassicas and the nightshades, followed by the cucurbits and the alliums. Those are moderate priorities for us. Legumes are important for nitrogen replenishment and compost. So just a brief note about AI here. I know it isn't for everyone. Everyone, is not happy with what's going, but it is there, and it is what we can use to help us with permutations and doing things. So in doing crop rotations, AI can be very helpful, and it's quite easy to do. So you're going to pick your crops, the number of beds and areas you have, and just go for it. Have some fun and look at the results with a critical eye using what knowledge we learned today on plant families. But it does get it wrong. And there are also, as I pointed out, some garden planning apps out there if you're inclined to try them. I prefer really just to track it with a little book that I have, a little hardcover garden book with my annual plantings in a notebook. And this works even when the power is out. And to be honest, I don't always follow anything except the priority families. The rest I experiment with a lot. So I want to share, and I have a handout to share my references. I looked at many, many sites, watched many videos. These are some of the important ones that will really be helpful in giving you the information you need. And I have another page of them. I've put the drill down links in some of them because there's a lot of windows to get through before you get to the information you want to on crop rotations. Also want to note that AI illustrations, as you can well imagine, borrow images from random sites. And I often look at some of them and make sure that they're not being copyright problems and things. So if I did, I want to thank those companies and websites for the use of their pictures for this educational and nonprofit education demonstration today. So I don't know if we have time. I don't think so to have a sneak peek at Felix's vegetable gardening tool prototype. But yeah, maybe we'll skip that in the interest of time. But it is a work in progress, and we're very proud of the work Felix does. He is a techno guy that helps us at our meetings and stuff. But it does need peer review and more data at it. But I think one day soon, it'll show up on our VIMGA.org website, and you'll be able to use it with no cost associated.
I think you could show people for a few minutes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank
I'll do
you.
that. I'll just have to um, change my screen share, so bear with me. This
No
might
problem.
get ugly. Okay. So I'm going to stop the share here, and we'll leave that, and we'll open up a browser. I've done this so many times, but for some reason on Zoom, presenting to people, I'm a fair bit nervous. But here we are. Pay no attention to all my things. Oh, you can't see. I'm not sharing. Okay, I will share now. So I'll share this application with you. You'll love it. It's very cool. I think that's it there. And we'll share. And I'll go full screen and I'll F11 it so you can't go and look at the site. Felix would be mad at me if I gave you the site. You don't want a whole bunch of people in there fooling around. So this is a fairly complex application that needs to have a good complete database, and we can use AI to go search the web to get the proper database. But let's just pick something that we want to know more about, and let's say it's cabbage. Okay, so right away it tells us that's the brassica family, so we can click on that, and we'll close that, and we can see all these things. And this will be populated a lot more, but these are all brassicas in that family that are listed here. The population columns are going to be very thorough. Hardiness zone, the height and feet, if it's applicable, number of days to germinate, plant spacing, row spacing, seed depth plant, seed number to sow, just packed with information. We also have a section here on companion plants. So the plants that we can plant along with this and how effective they can be and what they do, and the number of target plants that will fit with this. So we also are going to have a list of incompatible plants. So it's just a real wealth of information. You'd have to read a lot of books to get some of this stuff. Also, Felix has scraped the web to get a lot of this information, and that's how we populate these applications. We can see there's a suggested planting calendar, and because we're master gardeners, we like to use science-based sources, but sometimes West Coast Seeds has, although they are science-based, I'm sure most of the time, but they're a great source of information for our seeds and planting. Then we can see all the plant common plants, companion plants, and then our cultural requirement. So diseases or abiotic disorders that these plants have, clubroot, caused by fungus, etc. Of course, it's not fully populated yet, but we will start to do that. This is not Felix's full-time job. This is just a little hobby in between his full-time job. So also a list of pests, and we've talked about it'll be nice to have some great pictures of pests in there that really help with identification. And believe it or not, this is just page 1 of 5. That's pretty exciting. So page 2 is going to have the crop rotation families here. You can see them all listed. The information's a little bit garbagey right now because we're not complete on that, but you can see the the full thing. We'll go into page 3 and we'll see a list of all of the families, the combined names, information like that. I mean, you can just see that this is going to be a wonderful product when it's complete. It seems very complex now, but it'll be a lot slicker. The prettiness doesn't happen until the end, folks, just so you know. So things don't get good looking until we've finished filling up all the database. We'll have average nutrient concentrations for various organic materials in here. We'll have nutrient deficiencies, lots of references on nutrients, improving plant structure. And I don't remember what the last page is. Okay, so here we have all the varieties of tomatoes, for example, and the sizing of tomatoes, big, medium, small, cherry. I think that this is just a wonderful product, and I can't wait to see it completed, but it gives you a headache sometimes to think of all the work that has to be done to get something like this completed. I know I'm not the best coder in the world if I am one at all, so it would drive me bananas to have to do this. So I hope you enjoyed that early preview of the soon-to-be world-famous application. And this completes my presentation today.
Great. So we have a question from Wendy in the Oh, Heidi asked her to move it to Q&A, but we're gonna do it anyway. What are the advantages and disadvantages of using manure as mulch in the vegetable garden? Is there a problem with the drugs, hormones that animals are given if the manure is aged?
Well, manure has to be aged, so there's no doubt about that. Fresh manure is not something you want to put in your garden generally. And I'm not an expert on this, but this is right now is not the time of the year to be manuring your garden. That should have been done earlier or later. So manure is not the best. Compost is the best remediation nutrition product for your soil. That would be my answer. There's probably people way better at that than I am here that would answer it. Richard?
I mix manure with compost,
Right.
and I
Mixing it is fine.
yeah, and I just put it on my beds. And actually, I do it in the winter, in the fall, and then in the winter or in the spring, I just use compost. So manure and compost in the fall, and just compost in the spring.
But mixed for sure. And I compost all of my beds. I used raised beds, but I refer to beds as plots too. I compost all my beds at the beginning of each year, at the end of the season actually, with about 1.5 inches of compost that I make myself. And then I actually cover my raised beds so to reduce soil erosion in our winter rains and stuff. And I don't deploy a whole lot of manure because I have such lovely compost. But I do have a couple of bags that I use from time to time.
Yeah, the one thing about manure, it has to be well rotted because a
Yeah.
lot of weed seeds can get through the manure and then just populate in your garden beds. So well aged is probably the way.
So part of Wendy's question was advantages and disadvantages. So disadvantages I'm hearing would be the weed seeds, but you were kind of insinuating that compost was better. Why would that be?
Well, it has a wider variety of nutrients and it's more soil based. So you're more adding some soil with composted material. You're giving volume to your soil, whereas manure really is pure nutritional, and sometimes it's too much, as demonstrated by chicken manure, if you've ever put that on your garden in the spring or summer in quantities. So manure is a way higher nutrient focus than compost, which is generally a lighter focus for fertilization. Manure does work, but I would always mix manure with other products like compost before I put it in.
Right. So I think we've answered. Oh, and is there, do you folks know if there's a problem with any drugs or hormones, like if you're getting cattle manure, for example, passing into the manure?
Well, I always use steer manure for the most part, for that reason of what the weeds that these animals eat. Comments? Anybody else?
Um, I might just add that if that, because I don't actually know if, you know, whether those residues would be present after the manure is aged, but I would think that if I were concerned about that, I would just make sure if I'm getting um, manure that I know the people that are raising the animals and ask them how, how their animals are treated and what they're being given. If that, yeah, that would be my approach to that concern.
And aging is a big factor there too. I mean, that's going to get rid of any problems by aging manures substantially.
Hmm. There's another question from Anonymous. If you just have a smaller vegetable area, are you using square foot gardening? How does crop rotation work? You can use square foot gardening and crop rotation
Absolutely.
very easily, actually.
You just have a smaller area to deal with. You're still doing the same practice, but in miniature. And remember, it's really, the nightshades are the number one concern, right? Because they build up fast and everybody loves tomatoes and they don't want to have rotten tomatoes. So brassicas are the next most important. So if you take care of those two things, so in your small garden, keep your brassicas at that end and your other ones and move them to the middle and around. Just keep them separated like that. That absolutely works fine. And since we're home gardeners and we're composting and we're using organic fertilizers and those things and doing pest management, crop rotation and disease buildup is not as big a problem as the agricultural massive farms that we are seeing use this for both saving money and to help year over year profits.
True enough.
Okay. Uh, Janet was asking, my garden is my full yard, which gets filled when needed. How far apart should I be planting nightshades to consider it crop rotation?
Well, the rule is kind of not the same soil, right? So raised beds, that's pretty easy, isn't it? Because you have these walls and you're able to keep that soil contained. I don't think it's any far apart, so to speak. You just don't want to have the same plants in that same exact soil year over year. So just moving them, taking the whole plot and leaving a 4-inch space between that plot and the next place you move them to is probably not the best, but it's equally a good solution. Um, moving far away doesn't mean too much because pests have wings and legs, so they can find your crops wherever you hide them. But the soil-borne disease is the number one thing that you want to do this for. So just moving it to another set of soil is sufficient. You don't have to go too extreme, like down the road and around the block kind of thing.
Oh, and Janet clarified, she said she meant tilled, not filled when needed, tilled when needed.
Ooh, so we are in a no-till world now.
Oh,
We don't have to till anymore. In fact, we found out that that's not the best thing to do. So I know my wife's father was a great farmer with 8, 10 foot corn, and he tilled all the time. But nowadays, every time we till, we kill a whole bunch of things that are good for our soil, and it really doesn't. And we also disturb the settled in nutrients and root systems that have built the water channels and all that. So you might be very happy to know that you can probably sell your tiller quickly before it becomes
and do chop and drop? Are we
Chop
even
and
chop
drop.
doing
and drop.
anything in the garden
We don't
anymore?
do anything in the garden anymore. We just pick things and eat them. It's chop and drop for me. I do some things, but I just cut everything up, cut all my takeouts at the ground level, leave the roots in to help the soil. Um, Drop everything, even my asparagus ferns when they're all brown, and just drop them right on top of the asparagus and all that. And then I go get some leaves and anything else I can find and throw it on top of there, and just make sure I don't touch that again until the May long weekend because all those bugs are in there and enjoying their summer breakout.
Okay, Janet, are you going to be okay not tilling? Please let us know in the chat.
Yes, I did like to till all the time, but I
It
stopped.
feels virtuous, doesn't it? She says it's mostly to work grasses back into the ground.
You should cover crops. Referring to
Maybe.
cover crops? Yeah. Um, Really just rip them out and lay them down. Don't till. Try not to till. Just try not to. It might take years to wean off it, but really try not to till. It took me a couple of years.
She tries and use cover crops. She says, ha 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 ha. We'll
Yeah.
see. It's funny, we can intellectually know things, but we think that we're being industrious and good people.
Some things are fun.
Yes. Okay, I'm just clearing a bunch of this Q&A here. Somebody said, speaking of no-till, is it best to just leave it on top for the winter?
Yes.
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 Nutrition for the soil. When
Don't
we
worry,
talk
you can
about
still
biomass,
prune.
but
Well,
yeah, you can still prune. That's right. But only 1/3.
you cover your soil, you're not going to get it washing away, which is, one of the reasons why you would cover your soil with, droppings or whatever you have. The only thing I might caution you is if you find something has a disease on it, don't drop and chop, put it in your compost.
That's right. Put it in your compost. And the other thing that's come to light when I've been talking to gardeners in my clinics this year is people leaving raised beds exposed over the winter and the real serious problem of erosion. I mean, I know we don't get tons of rain anymore, but rain erosion is a huge detriment to raised beds. So I've actually experimented with one of my raised beds this year by putting 2 inches of compost and covering it with some old landscape cloth that I had for the whole winter, if you can believe that. And it's my best performing bed so far this summer.
Okay, we have somebody says, what do you think of leaf mold as a mulch to cover in ground soil for water retention after beds are planted? Are there nutrients delivered from the leaf mold?
Mostly just carbon. After it's broken down, I don't really think there's much left in it other than, leaf mold, which is great. But I don't know if I would leave it on the soil while you're growing things. Like leaf mold, I would put it on in the fall, let it break down during the winter time, maybe work it into the first couple of inches of your soil and stuff like that. But uh, after you've planted, no, I don't think that would be a good idea.
And a
Richard,
great
what is
idea,
leaf mold?
What's that?
What is that leaf mold?
It's tree leaves that have been
right?
composted, basically broken
Ah,
up,
It's a good idea to mow over them too to make them smaller before you throw
smaller.
them on your
Yeah.
garden so they'll turn in easier. I often have to pull that crop cover off when I start planting because it's just too much. So that's why I don't touch anything until that May long weekend. Try to resist touching your garden in the spring for as long as possible, so everything can get a chance to get away from you.
My peas have been in since April, and my beans. And I'm going to be picking them soon. So there.
Oh my. I'm coming over to your house to get some beans and peas.
Okay.
Great. Great. So we've got those two done. I have a very shaded vegetable patch, 3 hours a day, guess sun. What vegetables and fruit would prosper in this environment?
Prosper? That's a stretch.
That is a
So,
stretch.
what would prosper more than others?
I
Well,
think
cooler vegetables obviously would do better, but
lettuce,
Yeah, lettuces and
spinach,
radishes, I think is another
radishes,
one that you could
chard.
try. Yeah.
Yeah. But any of these that need strong daylight and stuff like that, I don't know if you really do well with them, like tomatoes or anything like that.
wouldn't do well.
Beans, peas,
Mhm.
no, they all require a fair amount of light.
Yeah.
So radishes and lettuces.
Radishes, I got radishes almost already, and they've only been planted 2 weeks. They're so prolific. They'll grow in a sock. It's crazy.
Does anybody have a favorite variety of radish?
I personally like the French breakfast. They're one of my
Me
favorites.
too.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Really easy to grow.
Whatever's in the package.
Okay.
There's another question. What are your preferred companion plants for vegetables?
Um, I know mine are flowers, marigolds, like putting basil in. It's great. I can't seem to grow basil anywhere, so I'm throwing it in my vegetable and calling it companion now because nothing else has worked. I don't know if anybody else has that problem. All of my other spices, herbs do very well, but I seem to have to keep buying these potted. It's like they have a time sensitive expiry date on them. I don't know if everybody else experiences that. So this I've started putting marigolds and nasturtiums are good too, and basil. Anything that's a pollinator attractor or a pest detractor. In other words, the pests will head over there and enjoy that feed. So nasturtiums are one of my favorites for doing that exact thing.
And you can eat the flowers and the
I
leaves.
I can't eat flowers. Sorry, I'm too old.
You've never had a nasturtium flower?
I'm never going to have a nasturtium flower. Sorry.
They're lovely.
No
Nice and
offense.
pretty.
They taste like capers. I love them.
Do
Oh, yeah.
they?
Yeah. Yeah. They
Well,
have
I'm
a
going to try
capery
one now.
taste. Yeah.
If you leave the bugs on it, I guess it might be like a meat sandwich of some kind. I don't know.
I just want to trick him into eating a flower now.
Yeah,
Borage flowers are yum, Sarah says in the chat.
they
Ginger
are.
is nodding.
Yeah, I put nasturtiums in my garden beds because it adds some extra color to it also.
Yeah.
And if you're in your garden bed, oh, there's a nasturtium flower. Tasty. Or beet leaf or peas or whatever.
I love the marigolds because they grow so quickly and they're just so prolific. You almost can't not like you can't kill them. They just seem to keep coming and coming. So I really like them and they look good too. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
No,
what's going on with my camera here.
that's
Does it look like
something.
I have an aura around me?
Yeah, you do.
I know. Who
He's
knows?
gonna ascend
Is
to
Who
that
knows what's going on?
are
Well, I'm sorry about that. I don't know
you
why.
leaving us for the other world?
I'm leaving you. We should be more serious.
Yes.
We're out of questions in the Q&A. Um, Panelists, do you have any crop rotation experiences that you'd like to share?
I didn't, one of my first years gardening here on the coast, I planted allium in the same spot twice, and I ended up with allium rust.
But sometimes you don't. You
Sometimes,
can get
yeah.
lucky sometimes and you don't. And believe me, it's just luck. You don't have special soil or something.
Well, it didn't interfere with the taste of them, but the bulbs were definitely smaller, the garlic bulbs and the onions. So what would we do if we had, let's say, chives? That's one of the alliums.
Yep. I
People,
put my I don't strictly follow the crop rotation. I'll put my alliums in with other things too, just to experiment. It's the important thing is moving stuff
right.
around and not having heavy concentrations of the same family. One or two can survive it, but it's the heavy concentrations. Just remember those three main families, maybe four if you put a stretch on it, that those are the important ones. And it's really, I kind of going around here a little bit, it's really the two, the nightshades and the brassicas that really need your attention. Everything else, I kind of mix them up once in a while, and I never have any real problems at all in my small home garden. And it's mostly because I'm composting and I'm putting natural organic fertilizers on and I'm babysitting these beds. So it's not like my farm. I don't have to go and get my tractor out and figure things out. So they generally do so well because you're looking after them so well. And
Mhm.
and the other thing to keep remembering, and I have to keep remind myself, all plants that are healthy can survive pests, except the worst infestation. So everybody has to eat. So you have to
Mhm.
leave room for that to happen too.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
plus if you use good fertilizer and keep them watered and stuff, you're not weakening the plant, which invites pests and diseases and everything else. So, good stewardship of the soil and your plants.
Mhm.
The bad guys always go for the weakest link. That's for sure. So keep things strong.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I wanted to just quickly mention too, because I know some people don't have large spaces to do, extensive crop rotation. Um, and but what they can look at doing too is using containers. So like rotating certain vegetables into containers as well. So if you're limited in space, that's also something that can be really helpful. And I have done that before. Um, so I actually would exclusively grow tomatoes in our greenhouse. However, I'm having trouble regulating the heat in there. So the last couple of years, I've moved them out into my garden beds, um, and and I actually will do some still in containers and rotate them out that way too. So
That's
that
what I
was, yeah,
find works the
always
best
a
for
good
me is I
option.
grow my tomatoes in pots. And that
Hmm.
way I change the soil every year. Like
That's right.
the soil that
Yeah, you have
red,
to.
I top dress my beds with it or I use it elsewhere.
Hmm.
In answer to your shady spots too, container gardening is a perfect
That's right.
way to move those
Right.
things into the sun through the day. So
Mhm.
tomatoes do very well in containers, as do many vegetables. So
Put it on wheels.
you could put wheels on it.
Yes, you
Right
can.
on. Yeah,
Roll
well,
it
that
down
certainly is a
together.
way though to avoid a 3 hour shady spot. Just to put it on wheels and get your kids to drag it around the yard, if or your dog or something.
True enough. Or Heidi, you could have your kids do it.
I know. My
Kids are
gosh,
great for
yes.
doing stuff, right? I always found that. Well,
They're
not so much
very great for
anymore.
picking out my zinnias too. So,
Oh,
Oh, the peacocks are doing that and the rabbits for us. We've planted 100 zinnias this year. I think we've got about 25 left, but they're
mm,
going to survive. So you have to put 100 in to get 25 out because the animals come around. And my wife is
Peacocks?
constantly out there reburying them.
well,
Does anybody else have pest peacocks feed their flowers? No?
Yeah, well, they dig up the turf, is what they do. So they scratch, 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 and they just like to touch. everything. But I have a pea shooter now.
Hmm.
Oh, that's probably too cruel for this audience. I have a pea
What?
shooter, and I just will find a little spot and sit there with a jar full of peas, and
Make it a little bit less pleasant to be in your yard.
it is not pleasant to be in my yard, even if you're a person.
The pea shooter is always
Pea
there.
shooter's always in action.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Anything else, Heidi?
Um, well, I forgot to mention too, like with my home garden too, I don't tend to have like similar as Mike, I don't tend to have a lot of pest pressure and diseases that come up because I do like to focus on having good soil health and what have you. But one of the things that I do have issues with a lot is the carrot rust fly, and so much so that I may not grow carrots this year. I'm still debating. But that is one that in the BC Home Garden pest management guide, they mention that crop rotation is not actually really helpful for that.
Isn't it?
However, I do have to make a point though, and this is what Linda Gilkinson had also mentioned too, and I'm glad she did because when if you have a problem with carrot rust fly to begin with, you cannot plant any I think it's umbelliferae plants in that, so any plant in that same carrot family basically in that bed if you are also utilizing a cover over the bed, because there is the possibility that the larvae and the pupae have overwintered. And so if you plant your carrots in the same bed or that you had a previous infestation with and you cover it, all of those adults are going to come out. They're going to be trapped in that bed and they're just going to have a smorgasbord of carrots to just repeat their life cycle. They have about 2 or 3 generations a year. And, uh, and so that one, I still haven't decided if my cover is going to be adequate enough and whether I'm going to do that or not. But that is one that you do have to actually rotate the crop initially if you had a problem with it in the past. So, and I have tried the using like resistant varieties. There's one that's called Resistifly from West Coast Seeds, and a couple years ago I thought I would just see how that does on its own without any cover or any other protection, and the damage was minimized. I noticed, but there was still that pressure there on the carrots by the carrot rust fly. So so yeah, maybe a combination of using a resistant variety and covering it and rotating.
The
Then
cover is critical for rust fly. It really is
absolutely,
the
yeah,
only thing that works, and you
yeah,
have to do it right too. And you
yeah.
don't want to take it off too soon or put it
That's
on
right.
too soon because you'll
Yeah,
just trap everything.
The other
yeah,
thing Linda says is depending on your planting time, you can plant them at a certain time that you know the adults aren't going to
yeah.
get out of the soil and reinfest it. And you can
Mhm.
actually probably do 2 crops a year. Last year I did it and I had no problem with carrot rust
Mm,
vine.
amazing. Yeah, I think she had mentioned too that if you can plant it later in the season after the last sort of generation, you, assuming your garden does well in winter, ours doesn't really. We don't get enough light in our garden, but if you can grow it, do a late planting and then overwinter them, and then in the spring, you actually can have a harvest before that first generation ever comes, and you'll have carrots that are beautiful, basically unaffected by carrot rust fly.
What I
So,
did last year was I planted them in late August
mm,
and they were good right through Christmas and New Year's. We had fresh
beautiful.
carrots.
Yeah.
Another great thing to mention is that you can subscribe easily to Linda's almost monthly newsletter that comes out, and it's
Mhm.
very timely. Of course, it's mostly particular to Vancouver Island and this area, but definitely you can go on her site and look at every one of hers. I was just opened it up now. I go all the way back to 2010 and it's searchable too. So I can look up Rust Fly and all those things and see her solutions, which are fantastic because they're real world solutions, not just
Mhm.
book learned ones.
Yeah, specific to our area too. And like this is
Yeah,
her,
true.
this other book is great. And I think you can get it out from the library too as a resource, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if you can see that. West Coast Gardening Natural Insect, Weed, and Disease Control. That one's excellent. So,
So on the hand, you have Linda's site there. I encourage you to sign up for a newsletter. It's a wonderful document that can be 2 or 3 pages long, but it can just be a page long too, depending on what's happening. And it is relevant off island as well, of course.
Mhm.
yeah.
And it's free.
Well, it doesn't look like there's any more questions.
Oh,
I'd like to thank Heidi so much for coming on board and such.
Thanks, Heidi.
Just, it was really nice for you to do that.
I'm still a student master gardener, so this was fun. It was also a learning experience for me too. So I appreciate being able to be a part of it.
Good.
Well, it's a learning experience for all master gardeners all the time. I feel I know nothing more and more every year. So I was really happy to do this presentation today because I learned so much about crop rotation that I got actually sick of it.
You were dreaming crop
I
rotation?
was streaming crop rotation very, very much.
Yeah.
great. Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, all of you, for being here. Also, Ginger, of course. We'll send out the video. You can share it with your friends after that, and there'll be links to the seaside gardening and smart water. Smart water was supposed to be earlier, but due to a personal circumstance thing, we had to swap it. So we'll be really desperate for smart water tips in August, but we
Yeah.
can set up for those. And you can see the previous sessions too on YouTube. We'll put that link in your recap video along with Mike's handouts.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very
everybody.
much, everybody.
Yeah.
Have a great evening.
Good night.